Well, good morning, everybody. This is Heather Reeves, and I'm joined by my counterpart, W.J. Miles.
Good morning.
Okay, we're from the MetroTex Association of Realtors, the MLS Support Department. Thank you all for joining us for the Automating Your MLS Emails through Matrix webinar. Now, during this webinar, as you think of questions, which I know you may have many, please type them in the question pane located on the right side of your screen. If you don't see the question pane, you may have to click on the orange arrow button to maximize it. We will do our best to answer as many questions as possible and as time allows by the end of this presentation. Okay? Now we're going to actually get started with a poll question to begin. Okay? First question is, have you ever created an auto email? I'll give y'all just a moment to answer that. Okay, looks like we've got some people engaged here. Now let's see what those results
Looks like about 73% of people have done this before.
Wonderful. Well, 73%, that's a pretty good number of you. But there may be some things about the auto email feature that you're not sure about. So we're going to walk through that in great detail today. Okay, I'm going to start by going to the search tab. And of course you go to whatever kind of search that you need. For this purpose, I'm just going to do a residential quick search. Okay? And again, what you see on my screen is just a very generic search that I have put together. Now, when you're doing results for your client, make sure you at least get about 10 results. Anything lower than 10 results is not really going to yield enough information for later on for the recurring emails. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've placed a generic search in there, and you'll see I have 12 matches. So I'm going to go ahead and click on results. Now once you get to this results screen, you don't have to check mark all the listings to start an auto email. All you have to do is go to the very bottom and click the word save. Now when you click the word save, you're going to see 3 blue buttons that pop up right down here at the bottom, but you're going to click on the one in the middle that says new auto email. Okay. Now on the new auto email, you're going to notice right here at the very top it asks for a contact name. Now you'll notice if it's in yellow, which you'll see the contact name as well as the subject line are highlighted in yellow. So those are mandatory required fields. Now, the very top box is the contact. Now, if I have a contact that I've added in the system before, you're going to see it in your drop-down menu. Now, if you've never created a contact, you don't have to go to another screen to do it. All you need to do is click Create a New Contact. Okay? Now, when you click Create a New Contact, it's going to open up a new box. Now, of course, again, there's those yellow boxes. So if it has a yellow box, that's a required field. Okay? Now, I want to point out, if you're ever dealing with a husband and wife team, it's best to actually do them together. Okay? And the main reason why is that way they receive the same auto email instead of having 2 separate auto emails going to both individuals. Okay? Now, how you do that for the email address is you will actually put their emails in together. All you need to do is put a comma in between each one. Okay. Now, as you can see, I just put in some fake email addresses in there as an example. Now, you also have an additional option when creating a new contact. You'll see right down here below where it says Show All Fields, and that will give you the option to add additional notes, company information, home address on your client. Okay. Now I'm not going to add any additional fields. I'm just going to leave it my first and last name of my client, their last name, email addresses, and then their salutation. Okay. If you wanted to change this, instead of it being very formal where it says Dear Heather and Jeffrey Reeves, you can click this as a drop down menu and you can enter a custom salutation, and you can say Dear Heather and Jeff. Okay, once you've done that, make sure you do click Save, and what it will do is it will automatically add those 2 contacts right here in that drop down menu, and you'll see their email addresses below. Now, right here at the top, you have an additional option. You can carbon copy an additional person and put in their email address. You also have the option to BCC me, which means you as the agent can be blind copied on every email your client receives. Okay? Now again, that's optional. If you don't want to receive that many emails, make sure that is not checkmarked. Now right below that, you have to name it a subject. Okay? Now for this purpose, I'm going to name it something that will make it easy if I need to edit this at a later time for the search that I did. So I did a Dallas area of a price of $350 to $400. Okay? Now that will make it easier again, that as me as the agent, if I need to come back and edit this, maybe my client changes their mind and they want to add an additional city, okay? Then you would change that subject line to follow accordingly. Now right below there, we've got your welcome email and your recurring email. Now that welcome email is the standard portal greeting, okay? You'll see it's already populated right there for you. I suggest not making any changes there because it is some pertinent information that will help your client maneuver through the portal. However, there's another tab that says recurring email. Now you'll notice if you're looking at this on your own screen, this information here that I have in text is not there. It's going to just say one or more new updated listings match your search criteria. Well, it's always best to add an additional note so it looks like you have a personal touch going out to your client. Okay? Well, I'm going to add my note in there, but I don't want to have to do this every single time I come and create an auto email. So if you notice right down here in the very bottom right corner of the box, you'll see a little gear. If you click on that gear, you're going to see an option that allows you to set current message as my default recurring email text. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So now this wording will be there every time I come and create a new auto email. Okay? Now the very next section is your signature. Mine is already populated with my picture, my company logo, and all my contact info. If you've never created your signature, you'll see right down here at the very bottom it says edit your signature. You can go ahead and click that option and it brings up this box here. Now if you haven't already created your signature, make sure you include the most pertinent information, okay? That's going to of course include your name, your title, the company you work for, and a good contact number and email address, okay? Now if you have any other forms of reaching out to your clients, make sure you include that all in your email signature. And then of course you can add your company logo and picture if you would like to. Once you've added that information, make sure you do click Save at the bottom, otherwise it will not keep your changes. Okay. Now just like this box up here, once you've created it, it stays there forever. So that's just like your signature. Okay. Once you've created it, it's going to be there every time. If you ever need to make changes, again, click Edit Signature and then resave those changes. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep on scrolling down here. The next box is the criteria. And you'll see none of this information is editable. I can't click on it, can't change it. All this is doing is showing me the information I set up on the page previous, all of their search criteria. Now I always suggest that you read through this and make sure you did not make any clerical errors. We're not perfect and that will happen, okay? So specifically the pricing. Make sure you double check that price. Now right down here is your settings section, okay? Now we're going to go over Concierge Mode a little bit more in detail, so I'm going to skip that for this moment, as well as the reverse prospecting, okay? We're actually going to skip this whole settings section and we're going to jump down to the schedule. Now if you're not using Concierge Mode, you're always going to see the schedule at the very bottom. Your first option is of course ASAP, which means that goes out as soon as possible. If it meets your client's criteria, then they'll receive an email. Now daily, You have the option to select AM or PM. I always suggest, and this of course is my opinion, to do AM and PM. And here's the one reason why. If you have AM selected only, and they receive an email that morning, if something meets their criteria late that afternoon, they're not going to see it until the following morning. So that may have been just enough amount of time to lose that opportunity to see that listing. Because in this market, you know how quickly things come and go. Okay, so if you're doing the daily option, typically select AM and PM. And if you need to only have certain days, uncheck mark the days that you don't want included. Okay? And then of course save at the bottom, and that will complete the auto email. Now, the last option is monthly. And us as trainers, we usually encourage you not to use the monthly option. And the main reason is after 30 days of inactivity, meaning your client's not reviewed their portal, it will automatically disable them. If you have it set up as a monthly option, they're probably not going to have enough time to view that before it automatically disables it. Okay? So always select daily or ASAP. Now I'm going to go right back up here to this settings section, and I'm going to select Concierge Mode. And you'll notice when I select Concierge Mode, the schedule box at the bottom will go away. All right, and the main reason is the purpose of Concierge Mode is you as the agent have the ability to approve every listing before it goes out to your clients. Okay? Now what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and do another poll question and see how many of you have actually used the Concierge Mode feature. Okay? Now, of course, you've got yes, you know, when you're dealing with some difficult or high dollar clients, no, too intimidating, or not quite sure. Okay, and let's see what those results are. We've got a few in there.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Looks like yes and no, too intimidating are the top two.
Okay, that sounds about right. I get a lot of agents that, one, they're not sure what Concierge Mode means, and then the second option, they may know what it means, but it's a little too confusing, so they don't ever use that feature. Well, I'm going to make this a little bit more painless and explain it a little more in detail. Okay, so in this settings, I want to point out for Concierge Mode, if you're setting this up for yourself, okay, and you may set up an auto email as a option, okay, for you to review listings. You'll notice you cannot Concierge Mode yourself, okay, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to change this to go to myself, and when I do that, you'll see now Concierge Mode is grayed out. I cannot select that feature. Okay, now I'm going to go and change it back to my husband and wife team and go right back down here to this section and check on Concierge Mode. You can also send alerts to notifications by email, okay, which that may be useful for you as the agent. Instead of having to log in to MLS, you want to check mark that so you'll get an email to notify you, hey, there's listings I need to review. Okay, I'm also going to go ahead and check mark reverse prospecting results and enabling this as a favorite search on my home tab. And I'll revisit those shortly and show you where you'll see that information. Now we're going to go ahead and click on Save, Go to Approvals. Okay, now when you go to Save, Go to Approvals, it's going to bring up those same listings that you did the search for previously. You'll notice it says 12 listings found for your Dallas 350 to 400 homes. Okay, now over to the far left it has emailed never. But if I had emailed this listing previously, it would give me a date or a time there. Okay, now you'll see down here at the bottom I have the options for reject and approve selected. Okay, so of course I'm going to go ahead and check mark one of these listings. Actually, I'll check mark a couple. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and check mark those and say, okay, I'm going to approve those selected. Now you'll notice the others that I had not check marked are still there. Okay? Now, they're going to stay there until me, as the agent, deals with every one of those listings. What that means is I either have to check mark every listing and approve them or reject them. Okay? Now, reject does not mean that that listing is just a horrible listing and it's not fit. It just means it really didn't meet their client's needs. So that's why you would reject it. Okay? Well, I'm going to leave those there, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Done. Okay, so I have some that are outstanding that I have not gotten to. Okay, now in that concierge mode, I want you to notice once I click Done, I now have an alert that has popped up here in the top left-hand corner of my screen. It says Concierge Alert, 1 auto email, 9 listings. So I know there's 9 listings that I need to either approve or reject. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and go to my Home tab. Now, you're always going to see this alert, and it's going to stay there until you address the Concierge Alert. Now, there's one additional box that I want to point out that can be on your Home tab, which is called the Concierge Box. Now, if you're looking at your Home tab and you don't see that box, you're going to probably notice it's in this big box labeled Additional. Okay? All you need to do is take your mouse, hover over the option you want. You're going to click it and you're going to drag it out and let go. Okay? Now that will put the Concierge Box there. You can deal with the Concierge Alert either by clicking the top alert in the left-hand corner or using the box. Okay? I'm going to use the box for this purpose. Okay, and all I'm doing is I'm clicking where it says my client's name. And again, it takes me right back to all of those listings that I still have yet to deal with. I'm going to go ahead and check mark all of these listings, and for this purpose, it doesn't meet my client's needs, so I'm going to go ahead and say reject. Now you'll notice as soon as I did that, now my Concierge Box is now empty, and my alert now is gone. Okay? So that's the Concierge Alert. Now I also, if you remember in those settings, it also had it where you could save it as a favorite on your Home tab. Okay? Now again, you'll have a box that's labeled My Favorite Searches. If you don't see that box, check in the additional section here and see if it's located. If it is, click on it, drag it, and drop it out. Okay? Now I actually have my favorite search box right here, and you'll notice right here about middle of the way, it says Dallas 350 to 400 homes. Okay? And that is where it saves it. Now this doesn't go anywhere but to your home page, so no one else can see this information. Now the reason I like this favorite searches, and you'll notice I have a handful of that I'm monitoring. Now later on, if I wanted to see if any new results have come through for that particular auto email or search, I can go down to the bottom and click Update All, and it will automatically recalculate and tell me if there's any new listings that fit that criteria. And you'll notice my Dallas 350 to 400 has 0 new. So since I created it just within the last 5 minutes, nothing has come through that has met that as new criteria. Okay? So that's your favorite searches and all of the different setting options you have on a new auto email. Okay? Now once you've created an auto email, is it possible to edit one? Well, we're going to do another poll question and see what our answers are there. Okay, now that poll question, is it possible to edit an auto email once you have created it? Yes, of course. No, it can never be changed. Or why would you want to? Okay, well, let's see if we've got a few people answering that question here.
Well, it looks like they've got it right. 90% said yes, of course you can.
Wonderful. Well, good. It looks like most of you know how to use this feature. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through all those edit options and show you a few things that you may not be aware of. So first thing, how you get to the auto emails is you're going to go to the My Matrix tab and go down to auto emails. Now it's going to bring up all of the auto emails that you've ever created. Now you'll notice over on the far left hand side there is a status right there. And if you notice, not every one of those circles are the same. Well, the very first one you'll see, there's my Dallas 350 to 400 homes, the one I just created, and it actually has a circle with just a green outline and it's blank in the middle. And you'll notice if you hover over that circle, it will tell you what it means. Okay, and actually, there we go. Client must first click first email link to activate. All that means is your client has not opened that initial email yet, so it has still never been viewed. Now once they view it, it's going to change to this circle right down here, where it's a green circle with a check mark in the middle. Okay? Now if they've ever stopped using it, or if they had, let's say you had it on that monthly option and they haven't viewed it in the last 30 days, then you're going to get this circle option where it says it's disabled. That's the red circle with the exclamation point. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first how you can turn one of those back on. Okay? So I'm going to start with this one that says test for class. You can open up the additional menu options by either clicking the arrow to the far left or click on the subject line itself. Then you'll see the menu options pop up below it. Now for this, to turn it back on, you must go to settings. And it will tell you how it's disabled. So this one was disabled by the agent. Okay? If it had been disabled by the client, meaning they hadn't viewed it in 30 days, that is what it would state here, that it had been inactive for 30 days or more. Well, I'm going to go ahead and scroll on down here towards the bottom, and you'll see right here in settings I have enabled and disabled as an option. All you have to do is click enabled, make sure there's no other changes you need to make, and then go to the bottom and click save. Now when I did that, now if you'll notice, test for class, instead of it being a red circle, it's now the blank circle with the green outline, meaning they have to now go in their email, re-click on it to activate it. Okay? Now once it's been activated, let's say your client happens to say, oh, I still haven't seen it in my email. Well, first thing, you always want to make sure they've checked their junk and spam folders, because a lot of times it automatically filters there first. But if they have already checked there and it's not showing up, you can resend it. Okay, again, by either clicking the down arrow or the subject line, you'll get the menu options below. Now, this one, since it's a new email that I've created, you'll see one of my options says resend welcome. Once you click resend welcome, that's the one and only time you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click resend welcome, and you'll notice now it's grayed out. I can't click it again. Okay, then I would automatically go and call my contact and say, I just resent that email, please go and check it now. Okay, and if you need to, tell them to wait 20-30 minutes if they don't see it immediately, and have them recheck it. Okay, now that's how you change one that's been disabled. You can resend one to for the welcome message. Now if you wanted to edit one, okay, now how you do that, you'll see I have, and I'm going to actually edit my Dallas 350 to 400 homes. Again, either click the down arrow or the subject line. Now for this purpose, I'm going to go back to criteria. Okay, so that's our search page, because I need to edit some of the information. And for this, I'm going to actually add Dallas and Plano, because now they're also interested in the Plano area. No other information has changed, so I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Now it automatically takes you back to this page where you have to change any settings. Now, if y'all remember when we were talking about this before, you always want your subject line to fall in line with the changes. So I'm actually say Dallas and Plano, 350 to 400 homes. The main reason is when my client sees that, they'll be able to clearly see that I've made a change to their criteria because the new subject line has changed. Okay? Again, if you have any other information you needed to do, go ahead and scroll on down, change any settings, and then save and go to approval. So this one again is in concierge mode. Now it's pulled up additional listings now that I've added Plano, and I can either approve or reject those listings. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and approve again, so that took care of those auto emails. Okay? Now that's how you do the editing of the auto emails. Now there's one additional feature that a lot of agents don't know, that you can actually see your client's portal. Okay? Now I'm going to use one that has received listings previously. Okay? So again, click the down arrow or the subject line. Now for this purpose, you're going to see an option that says Open in Portal. Now when I click Open in Portal, it actually takes me to my client's portal. Now the first thing I want to point out is you cannot make any changes on your client's portal. So if they ever say that the display is not set up correctly or they want to make another change, you need to educate them on how to do so, okay? Because you cannot manipulate their portal. But I want to show just a couple of things on here to point out so it will help you when you're talking with your client. Right here at the top you have the display button. It's just like you have in MLS where you can change the display. They have the portal single line, portal full, portal brief. You have then these options here. A lot of times agents call and say, well, my client says it's the map only. They can't view the listings. Make sure they go to the display option and select accordingly. I always suggest the split map with thumbnails. And here's why. It always has the map over on the left, but then it puts my listings on the right, and then if there's any changes like price reduced, new listing, it puts a nice nifty banner on that property photo, okay? And as you know, most clients are very visual individuals, so this may draw their eye in reference to a different view where it's just a long list of listings. It's not as fancy, it's not as pretty. So I would always suggest the thumbnail option, okay? Now, if my client, okay, your client has ever liked, basically put one as a favorite or a possibility, you're going to see those icons up here in the right hand corner, okay? The heart is your favorites, the light bulb is the possibilities, and the trash can, of course, that's the ones that they just don't like, okay? Now I want to point out a couple other options right here your client also has. They also have the option to do their own searches. They can click the search tab and they can either put in an MLS number if you've given them one to look at, search by zip code, pricing, different property types, etc. But if you notice, this is extremely limited. So it's incredibly important for you to do their search because you have more options to provide in the search criteria, okay? Now, they also can draw on the map. If you'll notice, they have the drawing icons and they're identical to what you have in MLS, okay? Now, they also can do the layers feature, which, as you know, this may be very important for them to see what's surrounding the properties that they're interested in. You'll notice in layers, unlike what you have in MLS, you can see additional criteria, but they have boundaries and points of interest. I always would suggest pointing out the points of interest. Now remember, if it's in red, all that means is you're zoomed in too far from the map to check it. Once I zoomed in closer, now I can select the option I'm interested in, and you can click as many as you would like. And you should then start to see those icons pop up on the map. Okay? Doesn't look like this area has a lot going on, so those aren't showing up here on the map. But again, I've also zoomed out, so now they're not showing. Okay? Now, one other thing I want to point out, if they've created a search, and you'll notice they can do a search and then they could save that search. Now, if they save that search, it'd be great if you could actually review it. Okay? Well, you'll notice again they have two tabs, Properties and Welcome. I'm going to click on Welcome, and now this is what they will see when they first come to their portal. They'll get your standard little message here, all your contact info and your banners up here at the top. If they have favorited any properties, they're going to show up here on the left. And if they had selected multiple ones, there would be a slideshow of those properties. Okay. Now right here in this middle section, it's going to show any direct emails and reports that I have sent to my client. You'll notice I've actually sent a couple of CMA reports to this particular individual. Now right below that is any notes. So if I've exchanged any notes back and forth between me and my client, they're going to populate here. And that's where your client can review any unread notes from you. Now on the far right hand side, the bottom box is auto searches. So I can quickly tell that this particular client of mine has 4 separate auto emails because it's specified here. Okay. Now if they had only one, you'd only see just the one. Now right above that is my searches. That's your client searches. And it looks like they have created one at one point in time. Okay. I can actually click on what they have created, and I now can quickly see they drew a shape on the map. So that may be an additional search I may want to include now either in my criteria or create a new search. Now, what's the biggest reason to review and see if they have their own searches? Well, the biggest reason is if you are doing a search and you have set up and they get auto emails and then they've done several of their own searches, if y'all don't have the same criteria, that may mean you and your client need to have a new conversation and find out, are you looking for what they have been looking for on their own? If you have not, then go ahead and change your criteria to meet their new needs. Okay? So again, that is the client portal, just a quick overview of the options they have there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and close that down now. Okay? So that is all our options for editing and setting up an auto email, reviewing your client portal. Now we're going to actually do a little bit more, but this time we're going to talk in reference to reviewing your listings. What can be viewed on your listings, how many views it's been seen in, etc. So we're going to actually do another poll question at this time and see how many have used this option. Okay, so have you ever used the reverse prospect feature? Yes, no, or what is reverse prospecting? What's that really mean? Okay.
All right, Heather, looks like about 70% have not.
Okay, well, wonderful. So if you remember when we first started in the auto email section, that settings had show in reverse prospect. Okay, so what reverse prospect actually means is you as the listing agent, okay, let's say you send a listing out to your client and your client happens to just fall in love with it, okay? And when they fell in love with it, they put a little heart on their listing, just like you saw in that client portal just a few moments ago, okay? Now they favorited that listing. Well, now the other listing agent who owns that property, they can now go and see, oh, someone has reviewed my listing. Now I'm going to show you how you can do that on your own, okay? First thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the My Matrix tab, and you're going to go down to My Listings, okay? Now right here in My Listings, it's going to automatically take you to your active listings. All you need to do is select the drop-down menu, and go down to My Hit Counters. Okay? Now under My Hit Counters, it's going to give you every one of your listings. And of course, it's got all of the statuses, your current pricing, address, etc. But now there's a new information over to the far right. Okay? The very first one you see is Client Portals. Okay? So we're going to look at this first listing. Client Portals. So that means, and if you take your mouse and hover over the word Client Portals, it's going to tell you the number of portals your listing has reached by direct or auto email. And this column is automatically recalculated every evening. Okay? So this is telling me that this particular listing that's at 927 Stewart Drive, it has been in 207 client portals. Okay? Now remember, that means either it's been sent out as an auto email or a direct email to your client. Now, client views. Again, if you hover over that option, it'll tell you what it stands for. Client views is total number of full displays viewed by the consumer in their portal. And again, that's calculated every evening. Now, what does that really mean? Okay, now if they're in their portal and they just happen to be scrolling through the list of properties, but they don't actually click on it, that does not count as a view. The only way to have a listing count as a view is for them to click on the MLS number itself and view the full report. So for your client, that would be either the portal full or the portal brief. Okay? So this listing has been viewed 204 times in a client portal. Okay? Now right next to that is client favorites and client possibilities. Okay? So client favorites and possibilities, that is your heart and your light bulb. So I know this property has at least 2 people that have favorited it. Then I have one that has put that little light bulb. That's a maybe, a possibility for them. Okay? Now if I keep on going over, the next one is auto emails. Okay? That's the total number of auto email searches presently matching my listing. Okay? So it's 191 auto emails. Okay? Now right next to that, that one's pretty much self-explanatory, but this means it's been viewed 27 times in the last 14 days. Okay? So in the last two weeks, 27 views is pretty good. Okay? So it's not too bad. So if you see that that number is quite a bit lower, or even the client views is quite a bit lower, it may mean you may need to revisit that listing. Maybe it's priced too high, or maybe there's another reason. So always review this information and make sure your listing has gotten enough views. Okay? Now the very last 2 columns is agent published and agent rejected. Now if you remember when we were working on Concierge Mode, when we went to that next page where it says go to approvals, we have the option to either publish those listings or reject those listings. Now again, if you're the agent reviewing this information, don't immediately freak out thinking, oh, well, people must just hate my listing. That is not the reason. It just really does not meet the other individual's client's needs. Okay? So don't let these numbers here drag you down. Okay? All right, so that is everything that you have the option to view on your listing. Now I'm going to point out one additional thing. You'll notice right down here at the bottom I have reverse prospect. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and check mark, and my listing's already check marked. If it was not check marked, you'll notice these are grayed out and you cannot select them. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check mark this 6923 Forest Glade. Okay? And we're going to select reverse prospect. Now you'll notice right here at the top it automatically gives you the MLS number, the address, and a little bit of information about the property. Now right below that, and you'll notice the very first column is agents' names. Then the next column is the reference number. Disregard the reference number. That's all it is a reference number. It really does not mean anything to you. Okay? Now over here to the next column that says count. Okay? So this individual, agent Zach Anderson, sent my listing, which is one of 20 that was sent out. Okay? That could either be it was sent in an auto email or they sent it as a direct message. The very next column is for the flags. So if they have favorited or put it as a possibility, you would see those icons there. Now this property has had several people either love it or, put it as a maybe. So I would definitely want to be able to reach out to these individuals. So right next to that is the column for the agent's email address, the agent's office information, and then the agent's phone number. Now I will point out the office name and phone number. Typically this phone number is the office number. It's not always the agent's direct number. Okay? But if you wanted to send a message to this individual, it's very easy. You can click on the agent's name. And when you click on the agent's name, again, it has all of the property information at the very top. Right down here, now you can actually include a message. Now, reverse prospecting inquiry. Well, we already know about 70% of you didn't even know what a reverse prospecting was. So I'm going to change that wording there to something else that may catch the agent's eye. View. Okay, so now I have agent review of MLS listing, and there's the MLS number. Again, you can change that subject line to whatever you would like, but we always suggest take out the reverse prospecting inquiry because a lot of agents don't know what that means, and they may just bypass that email from you. Okay? Now you also have the option to then BCC yourself, which means blind copy yourself, the same exact email you're about to send to this agent. Okay? Now in the body of the email, I would suggest making it generic, and here's the number one reason why. If you make it very generic, then you can always copy the message that you post here and use that to email the additional agents. Okay? Now down below, you'll see you have your email signature. If your signature had not been updated, click Edit Your Signature and make changes. Okay? Now I'm going to actually step back one page, and the reason I pointed out you may want to copy the body of that email is because a lot of agents always ask, well, I want to send an email to all of these email addresses. And you see there's quite a few in this long list. Well, there's not any quick, easy way to email all of those individuals at one time. So we have two suggestions in reference to that. You can either copy the email address by basically highlighting it, right-click, copy, and then you can go into a personal email that you have and paste the email address and do that for every single one of these. Now that may take quite a bit of time, okay? So the reason I point out, instead of doing that option, when you go here and you select and put in your message, it helps if you can also spell. Please contact me about your listing. Okay, I'm just putting in something as an example. Well, I'm now going to copy that message. So again, I'm going to highlight the whole message. I'm going to right-click on it and say copy. Okay. Now when I go back here, and then I can click on the next agent, instead of having to repeat and retype all of the information I have plugged in there, I can now go to that body of the email, right-click, and paste. Okay? And again, make sure every single one of these subject lines that you go back through it and remove the reverse prospecting inquiry. Okay? So that is the wonderful part of the reverse prospecting. I highly encourage you to use this feature as many times as you need to for all of your listings. One, you always want to see how many views it's been in, but if it has had really any good activity, then I would suggest emailing those individuals. And when I say good activity, that is going to be these flags. So these would be the ones that I would contact first, the ones that have a heart and a light bulb next to each agent's name. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and return back to my listings. Okay? All right, so that is the reverse prospect feature. Okay, so let's get back out of this. I'm going to go right back to my home tab in Matrix. Okay? Now I'm going to see, let me see, has there been any recent questions come up?
There's been several. First one, going back to the beginning, was do the changes that you make on your settings of your signature on the auto emails change it for all future searches also?
Yes, absolutely. So basically what the question is asking is, once you've created the auto email, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go right back to that section. Right here, they're asking about the edit signature. If you make changes here, and I'll go ahead and just make a change. Okay, I'm just going to change something very minor, and I'm going to click Save. Now it automatically changes it there. Now if I go out of this and go right back to it, okay, again I'm going right back to an auto email to restart it, and right there my signature has stayed the same and has included those changes. So yes, once they have made a change, it will stay that way in your signature.
Okay. Can you, as an agent, set a default display for your client?
No, you don't have that option to set a default. The defaults are only for you. So, for instance, what I'm speaking of is, let me take a step back. So, a lot of the times your default, which is your search criteria, that's going to be this information here, or on the previous page, on this criteria page here, okay? Your default is that little gear. See, I have set clear defaults. If I wanted to, I could set this as my default, but that's going to only be your default when you come back to your search page. It's not the default for your client.
Yeah. I think they're talking about the portal view that comes up for the client, and it defaults to the map on the left and the panes on the right of the map, but then it remembers the last view that they were in when they left it. So it just starts with that, but then it remembers the view they like most and brings them back into that view.
Okay, I apologize, I misunderstood that question. So the portal they're talking about is this portal. Just remember when we were talking about it again, this is why you need to educate your client on how to use the portal correctly. It's this display button here. Most of the time it automatically defaults to just the open map like this. If they want to change that, they just need to click display, change the option that they like, and make sure that they keep it in this view when they exit. Then when they come back to the portal a second time, it should be in this view instead of the original map only view. Okay, great question.
Okay, and then on the reverse prospecting, the question is, it appears to only work for active listings. Can you see it for pending or other statuses?
No, you cannot see that for pending or other statuses. It only allows you to see the active or the other 3 active options. Okay, so that again is going to be active contingent, active option contract, active, kick out, and the standard active. So you'll see again, I'm back on the hit counters. Okay, so these are all my listings, and it shows me all of those statuses. See, some of these are AO, AC, and A. So it's not going to show you pendings, and it's not going to show you the reverse prospect on any sold listings as well. Okay, those are not an option. Okay.
I'm just looking here to see if there's any other good questions. So when you're setting up the prospect, there's a place to put a check mark to have them be allowed to be in the reverse prospecting. Does that mean that I only see those?
Actually, yes. So if the other agents decided they did not want it in a reverse prospecting, then you're not going to see that agent pop up in the reverse prospecting option. So again, I'll show you where you'll see that feature. Right down here on the auto email section, it says show this contact and reverse prospecting results. If that is not check marked, then the other agent, they're never going to see you as their listing agent that your clients favorited or labeled that as a possibility on their particular listing.
And I think we would recommend that you always include that in there. If anybody can point you towards a house to get your buyer in, you want them to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Now I will point out with that reverse prospecting, if you're making this for yourself, if it's a search that you're monitoring, make sure you do not include reverse prospect. And the main reason is you do not want to put out false numbers to that other agent, because you are just looking at these listings. It's not for a client particularly, but it's something maybe you're monitoring on your own. So only use reverse prospecting when you're dealing with a client that you're setting up.
All right, this is actually a searching question, but it'd be the search that you're setting up for your contact.
Okay.
Is there any way to use a keyword searches for your contacts? So it'd be adding like property description?
Absolutely, there's definitely a way to do that. Let me go ahead and take a step back one. And I'm going to go take a step back one more time. If you're ever on this page and you don't see that back to criteria button, make sure you go back and click on actions, and then you'll see criteria. Okay, so I'm going to click criteria. And now what the question was asking is, can you add keywords specific to your search? So I'm going to go down here, and you'll notice I've already added some additional fields, but for those of you who are not aware of how that works, you can go down to the bottom, click in additional fields, and click add. If you've never used it, it'll just say the word add. If you've used it before, it'll say add/remove. Okay? Now, on the far left is all the fields you have available. And let's see, I already have both of the options you can use, but if you did not, you could add like property description, that's the common one, to search for keywords. Okay? So I've added it already, it's on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and click the bottom back button in the bottom left-hand corner. Now down here below, I have property description. So for keywords, you always have to use the asterisk. So that's a little star, and then you have to type in the keywords that you're searching for. So I typed in, as an example, sold as is, including an asterisk before and after the keyword. Well, that particular keyword did not yield any results, so it took my matches down to 0. Okay, so of course that probably isn't going to be something I'll have included, but I may need to change some of the additional criteria up here, and then that keyword possibly would populate some listings.
Okay. And tell me again what the count means on reverse prospecting.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on reverse prospect. So here, this is referring to this column here that says count. Okay, and what that means is this particular agent sent this property out. It was one of 20 listings that were sent out. Okay, so you'll notice like this one that says Quarry Flowers, 195. That doesn't mean that your listing was sent 195 times. Okay, it was one of 195. okay? So that's all that count means. Don't get too excited when you see a really high number. It doesn't mean that it's been sent out that many times, okay?
All right, and I think the last question is going to be, I've heard something about cloud streams. What is cloud streams?
Okay, well, cloud streams is, and I'll go back to my portal here. You'll actually see that on your portal screen, okay? The one that you see before you click on Matrix. Cloud streams is right underneath that, okay? And Cloud Streams is really a nice little product. It's actually the same people that put out Cloud CMA, okay? I'll just click on it, but I'm going to show you a couple of things. If you've never used it, it'll make you create an account. But I just want to point out, this is another way for you to send your listings back and forth to a client. I'm not going to go over this in detail, but I want to point out you can add clients, you can send invitations to them, and you can create new streams. So that's a new stream is basically a new search criteria. I highly recommend you as agents to actually go into Cloud Streams and create one for yourself and figure out how to use it. If you ever are not quite sure, over here at the very top right hand section is a help button. You can always click help and it will take you to the support center for Cloud Streams. And right here it has some general questions as well as different articles. And if you just are completely dumbfounded, you cannot figure out how to use it, over here on the right you'll notice you can email or call Cloud Streams and they can help walk you through using the Cloud Stream feature. Okay, so again, it's just another additional option for you to send listings back and forth, and really it's very nice because it's more of almost like a texting back and forth with your client, which may be easier since most of you are out in the field most of the time. Okay.
All right, so you'd want to set them up in one system or the other. You wouldn't want to set them up in both because it'd drive them nuts.
Correct. You don't want to overload them. So it might be best to have a conversation with your client and see if, which would be a better option for them. But before you select that option, make sure you play with it a little bit and make sure you really know how to use it. And of course, you can always call MLS if you need more assistance.
And what's that phone number?
That phone number is
214-2755.
Okay, and if you ever don't have time to give us a call, you can always send us a quick email, which is mls@dfwre.com. All right, guys, well, that is the end of our webinar. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. I do want to point out that this presentation will be available out on the MetroTex YouTube channel in a few days. We sure do hope that you learned a lot of new things and look forward to seeing you on our next webinar, which is on July 12th for Tips and Tricks with Barbara Bach. Thank y'all, and y'all have a wonderful day.